Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What has caught your attention? In the automotive world, I should have clarified, because there's been things.
There's something that catches my attention every
1.5
seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's not a fair question all the time.
I don't know. I had something big and I forgot. I don't know how that happened, but
You know what? As we go through and we watch the automotive news, which is always something that we're paying attention to, I just got an article sent to me that showed about General Motors showing a new battery chemistry. And it's not actually a new chemistry. I got the message right here on my phone on a link that somebody sent to me, but it's talking about how that they have been taking with cooperation with LG, trying to work on lithium manganese rich cathode chemistry.
Yeah, sure. That was what that's what I thought they would go to a couple years ago.
It's supposed to be a lower cost, and it's supposed to have a longer range. You know, that's what they're always going for.
Sure.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Longer. But faster charge, but it'll be a challenge like anything else, because now, once again, when you start introducing another battery chemistry, another cathode chemistry, it just is another challenge for the recycling stream. And and so
we don't think of that.
I watch from the outside with our hat on with the trade association. We're very involved in all this stuff across the country. And the recycling dollars that have been kicked out by the government to build up these recycling centers, they've been constantly having to adapt to new battery technologies.
Sure.
And also finding out that the batteries themselves are lasting longer than they expected. So their number one supply of recyclable materials comes out of the plants where the batteries are built, where the cars are built, and they're able to get the trimmings and the rejects and all that stuff as they QC out their battery production. So the actual quantity of batteries that are coming back off in large format traction batteries coming back off the road is not sustainable for the systems that they've built. It's a huge challenge, and that's why you've seen some of these companies have large financial problems once the government money has ran out.
Sure.
It's not sustainable at that business model. So they're all trying to adapt and react. This week we got in at Nordstrom's one of the, I don't ever like to say first because there's always somebody else that's first on something, but we have one of the first tools from a company called Midtronics that we've just unpackaged on Monday, and it is the ability to plug into certain vehicles, not all makes and models. We're finding out there's limitations, and find out true state of health of that battery. And to be able to understand the condition of that battery. Does it have 80% of its life left? Does it have 100% of its life left? 92% of its life left?
Our scanners do that on some, but not all. The Prius has been great about it.
Yep.
Since they started making the Prius, that hybrid system has been very good about telling you condition of each cell.
Yep. And that's what they're trying to get down to, is so that you can create a good hierarchy of use for the battery when it's in a second life based on the condition of the battery. So in a perfect hierarchy of use that's been adopted by Argonne National Labs and the Department of Defense and some other places, they look at first, why can't we reuse this in the vehicle that it came from? That's step one. Let's reuse it. Mm-hmm. Let's get it back to what it was. Let's reuse this thing. And then after that, let's look at, can it be reconditioned and be reused into that format? That's the next step, is looking at, can I recondition this and reuse it? And well, actually before that then after that then is, can I repurpose it? Can I repurpose the modules and the cells and use them in some other
our lights off them,
off-grid application, a boat lift battery, or whatever it might happen to be.
They pull a lot of those cells individually out and use them for different projects and things. It's pretty neat looking at the stuff.
So repurposing is the third level of the hierarchy of use. And then after that, it's like, okay, we went through the whole chain. We don't know what to do with this. It needs to be recycled properly. Then start regenerating the elements back out of it and figuring out what processes should be. And there's some crazy processes that can be used now to get the elements back out of it that are needed, whether it's nickel or whatever it might happen to be, to get them for other batteries and have that stuff be recyclable. In the beginning, there was a huge push by everyone that said, and I remember going to the National Battery Conference my first year when a lot of the government money had just been distributed, and it was literally like, you always hear the joking, the sailors partying on shore, use whatever term you want when they've been on the ship for too long, but these people were just crazy with money because the government had just put out a whole run of cash and they wanted to get batteries and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That has quieted down so much because the money is starting to trickle down and the business models need to support themselves and they're not. And I think everybody is slowly learning there's not enough batteries to recycle. So they wanted to right away say, recycle everything, just right away, just recycle it. Well, it really didn't make a lot of sense. And so now they've introduced, LFP technology was the one that really kind of messed it up because that doesn't recycle the same as the lithium ion. And it doesn't, they can't put them together in the same recycling stream. I might be saying some of this a little bit out of whack for somebody that's really into it, but I got enough generalities. I think people are getting the basics on what's happening here. So the recycling piece of a new technology coming out like this when GM makes press releases that they've got the new latest and greatest, it's really good for hopefully the consumer product, but we don't know how it's going to continue to affect just a total disruption and craziness in the recycling side of things.
Because everybody, now, correct me if I'm wrong, every battery we use, AA, AAA, 9-volt, all of those, you're not supposed to throw in the regular garbage.
There's a process. That's why when you walk into some of these places, they've got the bins you're supposed to dump them into. I don't think a lot of people do it.
And everybody throws them away. Everybody
they
throws
recycle so many.
That is a great point, Russ.
Batteries.
Our partner Clarios has been on this for years.
They told us that it was something it was in the thousands per minute, I believe it was, that they recycle when they get them in. They get so many, from a watch battery to a truck battery. It doesn't matter what it is. But if you go to the Battery Shop channel on YouTube, you can see the recycling stuff. It'll tell you more than we can explain in a couple-hour show. But boy,
and that's getting back into the batteries that have been around for a long time.
Well, it's neat to watch some of that. Sometimes I go there and just look at some of those videos. Like we were watching videos of cars getting eaten by a shredder and buses and engine blocks and apartment buildings. I mean, whatever.
Can you get a shredder? Will you get one of those big shredders, please?
No.
I thought he was going to get one when he showed it.
No.
Listen, our YouTube channel would be huge.
Yeah, I know.
Think of the stuff we could throw in there.
Maybe a small one.
Okay. Yeah,
they do make small ones for like engine blocks.
Yeah.
I don't want the big one because it makes me feel weird to stand next to something like that, because there's a part of me that...
I bet it'd shred a person.
There's a part of you that thinks there's a body in every car.
Well, there's part of me that wants to bump you into it. I mean, if we were standing at the edge of one of those big shredders, it's not 100% of me, but there is a tiny little part of me that would want to just, I can't help it.
Is it because of something I did or just a tendency you have?
Anyone. Let's go to Georgia.
Note to self: don't stand on a shredder edge for inspection with Chris.
I'll stand by that. Yes, don't. Okay. Let's go to Georgia and talk to Travis. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Travis, what can we do for you? Travis, are you there? All right, hold on.
Fell into a shredder.
Push that button.
I have to push it right in the middle. Yeah. Hold up. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. We're going to talk to Travis first, and then it's you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
TheHoodShow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Now, let's talk to Travis in Georgia. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Travis, what can we do for you?
Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good to talk to you, Travis.
Just wanted to put this out there. I've been watching y'all's show for quite a while now, and I really do love it.
Thanks.
But I've got a 2002 Chevy Tahoe that's got a parasitic vibration in the engine.
I did not expect you to say vibration after paracetic. Russ and I both did like a little head twist there.
Mhm.
So tell us more.
Vibration,
Tell us more.
the vibration has been shaking wires, and it's not coming from a camshaft. I've already checked that. I've already checked all my headers and everything like that. I've just redid my spark plugs, spark wires, coil packs, and everything like that. And it's sending codes to my shaker sensors.
For like the knock sensors?
Yeah.
I've never heard those called checker sensors either. But I'm loving it. I'm going to steal some of these words. Because I'm
from the South. I come up with a lot of things.
You know, and I butcher the English language and use it a lot, and so I'll this stuff will get funneled in somewhere. But so you've got a just basically a resonant vibration that's causing enough movement on the engine that it's turning on the knock sensors of some sort.
Yeah.
If you got a knock sensor code on one of those, it could be coming from, if you've got excessive piston slap in the engine, they can do that when it gets really bad. It's not something that's going to kill the engine, but once it gets bad enough, the knock sensors will pick it up and cause it to run poorly, fuel mileage, power, everything. And unless you had it custom tuned to dial down the sensitivity of those knock sensors, it's going to be hard to relieve without replacing the engine. But it could be something else in there too. I want to make sure it's running right. You know, it could be a misfire or
and
something.
I've also got something else that's going on with that vibration as well. When I first crank up in the mornings, it's probably 60, 70 degrees here in the mornings, and I'm sitting there at the red light idling, and the RPMs jump down. Oil pressure steady, and everything's fine, but when I go to give it some gas, it does fine. When I'm accelerating, it does fine, but while sitting there idling, after just cranking it up, it'll sit there, it'll jump. The engine will jump just about.
Yeah, it sounds like it's got a misfire on one cylinder, maybe just a shaking, shaking until you give it gas.
How many miles are on this 2002?
330,000.
I cannot believe that it would have a problem.
I know, it's weird, right?
It's getting broke in.
Is it all original as far as the motor and stuff?
Everything's original. All original parts. The only thing that's been changed, I've got a performance thermostat and a performance fuel pump.
That's impressive. I mean, that's good. That's awesome. You've taken care of it well, apparently.
It might have it. Does it ever have a flashing check engine light?
No, it doesn't. I do. I run my own mechanical business down here, and I've tried to take care of, because that's one of my mobile units that I drive.
You know, I'm wondering if it just has enough leak down and blow by, and it's just getting in a rougher condition where it's not setting a hard misfire code, because all the cylinders are getting pretty weak with the age, so it's not giving you a flashing check engine light, but it is missing a little bit, so it gets a little low at idle, lowers the idle down. You get knock sensor codes, things like that. You would just need to pull the plugs out of it and start with a compression and leak down test and see what those numbers, how they compare. If you got a high percentage of leak down and low compression, it might be something you have to live with unless it's replaced, because it's getting some miles. That's a considerable number of miles on one of those.
We see them come in here with those miles
400
on
or 500 sometimes.
So I mean, I know we've had them from fleets and things like that they've had vans that have got 400,000, 500,000 miles on them, and they're still driving them. But I don't know what their conditions were.
I got one running pretty good at 300. So
yeah, that's right. Yours would be in that range with the same year range.
It's just still runs like brand new. It's got a little bit of that piston slap to it, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep driving.
Do you ever get a knock sensor code?
No codes.
No codes on it whatsoever.
No. Runs great.
All right, let's summarize this. What you'd have Travis do here, just to kind of round the
next step: leak down and compression test first before I go anywhere else.
With that many miles on it, for sure.
I'm just going to see where it's at, and that's where I might decide to just leave it and drive it.
Just let it go, and
yeah. If I find it's pretty low and it's got a low compression, high leak down, I'd be just like, I'm just going to drive it till it's down there. If you find that it is in pretty good condition, like let's say you got good compression in it, and you've got you don't have a problem with a lot of blow by in it, and the leak down is a very low percentage, so that looks good. It may just be that the thing is carboned up, and you may try running. And I mean, either way, you might just start running BG44K Platinum in the fuel tank, pour it in the tank. Every time you fill it up with fuel, I'd do that for the next 4 tankfuls, and see if it cleans itself up. Because if you've got dirty injectors, you got valves that are dirty on the backside. This is one that's not direct injected, so you're going to get that spray into the intake, onto the back of the valves. It's going to clean everything up. That may be enough to smooth this out a serious amount, and that can help. And it's amazing what it did. I had a Fusion the other day. We put some in, and it just cleaned it right up.
Travis, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And yeah, at that far in, he's won the Tahoe lottery here.
But he does. I can tell
he's not ready to
give up yet.
Yeah.
Mine was running
enough.
a little rough, and I ran that BG44K Platinum in the fuel tank in just 2 tanks, and it smoothed the idle up a considerable amount.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Roger. You're on the Under the Hood show. Roger, what can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. I'm calling about a 2005 BMW Z4. It's got about 40,000 miles on it. It's the 2.5 automatic. The other day when we were driving it, we were in cruise control on it, and all of a sudden it just kicked out. And there are several lights that came up on the dash and such, and it more or less put us into a limp mode. It would let us increase speed a little bit, but then it would cut back again. Made it home. We did put the scanner on it. We found a whole bunch of like low voltage sort of error codes, mostly from like the instrument cluster. It seemed like there was one that error code that said master cylinder pressure number 2 had faulted. I'm thinking that maybe is what kicked us out of cruise control, but would that also put us into a limp mode sort of thing?
I think the first step you better do on this is check the alternator and the battery. Test the battery, make sure the battery's good. Test the charging system, make sure it's charging completely. With what you're describing, every one of those, if I had a chart here in front of me and I was writing down things it could be, I'd say, oh, we got a low voltage, we lost the cruise, we've got light. This is going on, that's going on, this sensor's off. And what are the one thing, every single one of the things you said it has in common? Low battery voltage. Every one of those can be caused by that, including the cruise shutting off, air conditioning shutting off, brake lights, warning lights. If you do not maintain a certain amount of voltage on a car, things won't work. We put a transmission in for somebody about 3 months ago, and they said, oh, the transmission's already out. Okay. They said, it's not shifting. It won't go into second gear. It just goes. All right. And I went out, tried to start the car, and it just went click, click, click. Oh, battery's dead. That's odd. It sat here for 3-4 days, and it started. So I jumped it. There was no warning light for an alternator, but I started driving down the road, and it wouldn't shift gears. Turned around, came back, said, oh, all right, it won't shift. I better check this out. I shut it off, turned the key back on, plugged my scanner into it, and it just went dead. I went, oh, wait a second. Something's going on. So I jumped it again, put my tester on it, 0 output from the alternator, and that can do it.
Does that help you out there, Roger?
Okay. It did, yeah. This battery's about 8 years old, so that sounds logical.
Thanks very much for the call, Roger. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. Don't forget you can watch the show on our YouTube channel too, and if you do that, you subscribe and join the Hoodie Fan Club at UnderTheHoodShow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Devin Billingsley, congratulations for everybody here under the hood, and our friends over at Berkeley One Classics, celebrating 50 years of collector car insurance, and Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. They're who we Houston. Atlanta.
You should have one up at International Falls where they do the battery tests in all the commercials.
Oh, I remember that. Was that the Die Hard commercial?
Yeah.
I remember
But they do.
those.
I was just reading an article about the testing centers that are all up there and how they move out onto the lakes for part of the year. And then,
It was always when we were kids, when when we all watched the news.
yep.
The low was always International Falls.
Yeah.
Seemed like it. That's why they're there.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Dan. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Dan, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Good to hear from you.
I got a small problem. I have a 2007 Nissan Frontier with a 4.0. It has a problem of drinking oil.
Well, there's a couple problems.
I replaced the PVC.
You did? Okay. The PCV valve and the cover?
Which cover?
The valve cover, or you just that one's got a different setup on it.
Yeah. Tell us what
It's a
you
pull
did.
valve.
Tell us what you did.
I replaced the PVC valve. I also took the intake off and noticed that the intake was drenched in oil.
Okay. Anything else? Just before we start.
Well, I was told that you're supposed to replace the valve covers because there's bad design in the valve covers, and replacing that should help it, but I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about on the valve cover. If the valve cover's bad and it's pulling oil through that PCV system, it'll pull it into the intake. The way that it's not really the design of the cover, it's the design of the cover once the vehicle gets old. Once it gets old and it starts building up carbon on the inside of that and carbon on the rings, and you're getting a little more blow by, it can cause that issue. So there's a couple things to do. Now there's two partners of ours we use that directly affect this vehicle that we use regularly in our shop. The first is Dorman Products. Dorman is where you'll find valve covers for this vehicle in order to correct the issue. And they make them for this vehicle, Chevys, Fords, Chryslers, anything with a in-valve cover type PVC vent and valve. You just got to make sure you're replacing the correct side with the valve in it. The other one is CRC. If you use one of their products that'll work really well is their Guaranteed to Pass emission system cleaner. It's got a number 2 in it, Guaranteed to Pass. That will help with cleaning up the carbon that can build up in the rings and things like that in this engine, causing excessive blow-by and getting that oil into the intake. Plus, it'll also help clean out that intake and all the goo that's already in there, because that will turn into carbon and cause a future problem if you don't get it out of there. So you want to clean that out. But find your favorite auto parts store. Ask them about the valve cover that has that PCV in it so they'll help you get the right one. I would start by putting that on. We had a truck in yesterday, a Dodge, and it had a PCV issue where it was pulling oil through that. So we wanted to replace that right away, and now we're monitoring that. But that could help you save not having to put an engine in this thing.
So replacing the PVC valve and the valve cover ain't going to do much unless I replace the valve cover itself.
Right. Because inside there's some passages, and the way it's built, as it starts carboning up in there, it will pool oil up in there, and then it'll suck it right out. You know, imagine a straw that's an inch above the liquid in a McDonald's cup with the plastic lid on it. If it's an inch above the liquid and you're sucking air out of there, that's all you're going to get. But now if you were to tip that cup up sideways until I pour my coffee onto my desk here.
You can watch this on YouTube right now.
You would all of a sudden, you're starting to suck the liquid up out of there, and it's going into the engine. That's your engine oil. So what they have done is they have redone the baffles in there so that they keep that from getting up into that area. Chris is like, don't you pour that onto my board.
No,
or my guitar. Right?
If anybody is gonna, I want you to. So I'm cool with it.
I think that you and I are both in agreement that if something's going to get spilled in here, Russ should spill it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It should be not anybody else, but if Russ can spill it, then
we're fine.
We're fine.
Dan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. So this is just, he's got to get back to normal and then see what's going on. I mean,
exactly.
866-594-4150. Let's go to New York and talk to Rob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Rob, what can we do for you?
Yes, hi. I got a question on my 2016 Chevy Express.
Okay.
The Stabilitrac system.
Yeah.
About a little over a year ago, it started engaging as we were driving the van. Yeah.
Are you
It would
driving
just slow it
erratically?
right down. Excuse me?
I said,
No.
are you driving erratically?
No.
Are you doing donuts? No. So then that's not normal.
Nope.
So what was happening when
Nope.
it would engage? What would it do to you?
Huh?
It would immediately slow the engine down,
Yep.
and it was rumbling.
Yep.
So you immediately, you saw the ABS light pop up and the symbol for the, traction with the car with the little skid marks behind
Skid
it.
marks. Skid marks are never good.
Yep. Sometimes the check engine light will pop up at the same time, so all three at some times. But it's done it off and on. No rhyme or reason to it. I've brought it to 2 Chevy dealerships, and they can't figure it out. One Chevy dealership even called the engineers and can't figure that out.
They're going
So-
too deep.
It's still happening.
Yep.
And nobody can figure it out. I mean, I even I pulled the fuse for the ABS, and it happened again.
Hmm.
So even though the ABS light was on, and then they weren't engaged, it happened again.
There's more than one fuse in that ABS system. So if you're going to pull them to
Oh.
testing, you're going to need to pull both of them. There's a motor fuse. That's the big one. And then there's another one that runs the module. So make sure you're after both of them. That's how we do testing. But I think we got to back up a little bit because I think they're overthinking it. This system probably has a fault that to the computer looks perfectly normal. The computer probably says, we have a stability issue, activate the system. So it's not setting a code. That's why they're not going to find it. That issue is probably a failed wheel bearing and sensor, and it's likely on the front of the vehicle. I see this a lot. Usually it's become so bad that the customer says, this has been doing this for a year or two. I'm tired of it. Can you fix it? I will take it for a drive. I will start to make a gradual turn one way or the other, and that's when I get it. It activates, and I get reduced throttle, low power, what's going on. Then I have a passenger that's, riding along with a scanner because I'm not going to do it driving, right? Anyways,
Right.
they'll look at it and they'll see what is activating it. Which wheel has activated? Well, it looks like the right front has activated the system, and it thinks it's normal, but I know it's not because we just took a gradual corner to the right at 20 miles, 30 miles an hour. So we know that's a sensor that needs to be replaced. That's what you're going to find. I had one yesterday in a Silverado. It had a right rear sensor out. As you drove it at low speeds, you would find it, but it wasn't setting a code. So that's probably what you're going to find. It's probably pretty simple. They're just not locating
Did that Silverado have a Stabilitrac
Yes.
system in it?
Yep. They put that in almost everything now. It's very common to see
And that
it.
Stabilitrac system integrates elements from the throttle valve, elements from the yaw sensor, steering angle sensor, ABS brakes.
Yeah.
And then
if you're going down the road,
it's all tied together.
if you were to go down the road and start to skid because of the way you're driving, the old way would be, I'm starting to slide. I'm starting to spin out to the right. Take your foot off the throttle first. The computer does that now. It reduces throttle. That's why you get low throttle. Then it'll say, what about brakes? Well, you can't apply the brakes. You'll keep skidding. Let's apply the brakes on the opposite side to pull us back to a straighter position again and reduce the pressure on the other side. So that's where you get that braking action going on. And all these things combined even further if they have active shocks and suspension where they can control the valving and loosen up one shock, tighten up another. It will really make a difference. If you've got a vehicle with Stabilitrac and you have an on-off button and you go play around in a parking lot where you have lots of room and nothing to hit, and you start hitting that button on even on the ice, you'll be amazed how much difference there is between working and not working. But if you get a system like this that fails, like yours is, it can make it more dangerous to drive.
When we were out on the Corvette track at the Ron Fellows Performance Driving School, they had us in a mode that they called it a performance mode, and in the beginning, when I first did this, I assumed that mode was taking away all the controls. And in the mode we were in, a couple different settings, it's still, even though it said it was a performance mode, it was still like 35-40% of the computer in control of the car. And they won't let it go any further with guests.
Shannon knows what the full off mode that they used to have available is.
Yeah, I've done that. That's not good. But it'll put a 0-1 in the ditch.
And in Rob's case, his van, his computer's just saying, hey, we were just on ice for a second. We fixed it. Good job. Good job, Stabilitrac. So it thinks it's working fine.
Yeah.
And that's why he's not getting codes and seeing any problems.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Russ just gave you some good advice to have him just back the bus up a little bit and go back to the basics, and that's the most common failure point. There are going to be examples of this where it can end up being some weird wiring fault somewhere in the system, but the first wiring fault would more than likely be a sensor wire that's connected to the sensors, as they connect with the wheel bearings. On the old systems, that was real common. And so just as you're looking at these things, I know like Ford Expeditions recently, they came out with a recall. They got a problem in some of them where they do weird stuff like this, and it's actually in the ABS unit on a recall. And it just came out this last week in the news. And so there are things other that it can be, but
this is where
we see more problems with wheel hubs, sensors, wires connecting the wheels in the front, the throttle valves themselves getting problems in some of these vehicles on GM.
Mm-hmm. Rob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Pennsylvania and talk to Art. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Art, what can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking the call and appreciate your information. I have a friend who has a 2015 Chrysler Town and Country van. When parked, randomly the rear liftgate is opening on its own. She'll come out in the morning and find it open, or go in the afternoon, look out in her vehicle, the liftgate's open. So at the moment her husband disconnected something, she don't know what, but at least it's not opening. She has no longer power liftgate. But just wondering, any ideas if there's anything typical on them that would cause them to randomly open on their own?
Do you know, I mean, it's probably hard to tell, is the vehicle locked when this occurs? Have they ever locked the vehicle, and does it happen still?
Actually, I can walk over and ask her that.
I would find that out, because if it's
locked up.
Well, if it's locked, if you lock the doors and it still occurs, it's got to be unlocking the vehicle and then activating that unit. But if doors are unlocked, it could be as simple as the switch is bad in that back door. We've replaced a lot of them, and the switch could be just making contact inside from humidity, moisture, air temp, and then it makes contact and it opens the gate.
When your liftgate opens, is your vehicle locked or unlocked?
It was either one.
Okay.
Both.
Either one.
Tell me both.
All right, because then it has to be something a little more serious, like a module issue, or the remote control has a problem. And since that remote is integrated with the key, for starting, you can't just take the batteries out to find out. You'd have to get that far away from the vehicle just to see. But we've had some remotes, those little remotes on those things go bad as well. They're integrated, and the button could be stuck in the remote, because you need a remote which, when you hit that tailgate button, it unlocks the doors and then it opens the tailgates. You can't just walk up and open it by hand if you don't have that remote. It's locked. So I'm thinking that's got to be what's going on. I can't see a module that would just open that gate.
When you look on your scanner data, is there anything that ever says what the last history of unlocks was for something? Or
no, it doesn't show unlock, just alarm. I had a neighbor, and his Ford was going off like 5 or 6 times a night, every night. And I know the neighbors are getting annoyed with it. And after 3 weeks of this, well, they had to have been, because they're closer than me, and I could barely hear it, but I could hear it. I brought my scanner home and I said, "Hey, guess what I'm going to do today?" He's like, "Fix my car." I'm like, I walked over there and it said last 10 events were left rear door. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that door hasn't worked in a long time." Mm-hmm. Well, let's unplug it, and it fixed it. But in the case of activating something intentionally, no.
Okay, that would have been a good help.
Intentional cruise deactivation, yes, that is usually
got you.
stored.
Okay.
Foot on the brake, what deactivated? Because these are things that are so common, the manufacturer says, let's put some diagnostic in
What do
there.
they call those bags you can put your key in so nobody, or is it a
Faraday cage.
Faraday
bag,
case?
yeah.
Get a Faraday bag and put your key in there overnight and see if
You
it still
can,
does it.
You can buy them on Amazon. I
Yep,
think they're
real
like
cheap.
$6.
Yeah. Just put
Also-
your key in there and see what happens.
See if she has any heirs that are trying to drive her crazy. Like or a 14-year-old boy that's got the remote and is just sitting there filming for his YouTube channel. He's doing
What's
bits for TikTok. All right, we're going to take a break. 866-594-4150. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Illinois and talk to Gary. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Gary, what can we do for you?
Yes, I have a 2002 Buick Lesabre, and it's when it goes along, you start it, and it runs fine. And after you've driven it about 5 to 6 miles, then it starts hesitating, and then it kind of gets worse the further you drive it. The motor seems to stop and clunk, then it takes off again. It will not idle when you come to a stop sign, and I'm away from home right now, so I can't tell you everything my mechanic has put on it, but nothing has worked. It seems to hesitate, then take it off, then hesitate, then take off again.
3.8 engines, a lot of common things that can cause this no matter what model vehicle it was ever put in.
And they used them in a lot of vehicles.
Yep. And the first steps we do when we see something like this on one of these vehicles, I scan it, see if there's any codes or data that's off to me. I check fuel pressure, and I check the fuel pressure regulator right on the rail. I pull the vacuum line off, make sure it's not wet with gas in there. Those are things I start with. But other things that can cause this same issue, if you've got good fuel pressure, a mass airflow sensor, if it looks good, can still have a problem. It can still be bad. It could use cleaning. If you ask your mechanic,
Now, where is that at?
It's right on top of the intake manifold on that, right where the throttle cable is hooked up to. It's bolted right to the top. There's 3 screws. It pulls out. Ask him if he's cleaned it or replaced it. That is a huge input to that engine.
I think he put a new one on.
Okay, a new one would be a good start, and then that should eliminate that problem. Not many of them fail in these cars. I have had some really cheap ones fail. We'll use the one from Standard Products because it's a good quality sensor. Some of the really cheap, I'm not talking about like those Amazon sensors and stuff. Not so good. You could end up with the same issue again because they're calibrated pretty fine tuned. You got that. You've got your fuel pressure. Make sure that fuel pressure is steady like it should be. Those are the big things on this car. You could have some issues with an ignition module or something on that. That has been known to happen a little bit. But these are things that should be able to be found not by looking at codes, but by looking at the data from the engine. You've got to have somebody that knows the 3.8, has seen other 3.8s, and knows what those numbers should be. Because to a person that is not familiar with all the numbers, what they normally would be on a normal running car, they may look at it and say, oh, it looks pretty good. I don't see it. But, well, that one's out by 6 points. That will cause this. So some things to look at. But fuel pressure, mass airflow, the 2 main things on this engine. Other thing, it's far out there, but the PCV valve is on the passenger side of the intake manifold under a little plastic cap. It's all self-contained. There's no hose or anything on it. So you twist it about a quarter turn, you pull the whole thing out. If that valve has gone bad or the O-ring is collapsed inside, it will have an internal vacuum leak and it's bleeding to death inside. It's losing air and it will cause it to run horribly. You may pick one of those up. They're about $15 to $18 or so. Put it on. It's got a little diagram that comes in the package that shows how to install it. You lubricate that O-ring when you put it in to make sure it seats well. Otherwise, you can get it crooked putting it in the first time or cut the O-ring. That could that is a major player in that too.
Gary, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Arizona and talk to Charlie. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Charlie, what can we do for you?
Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, I got a 2012 Nissan Frontier, and the blender motor is going that tick, tick, tick on the passenger side. Took it in a mechanic. They found out, they said, well, under diagnostic check, that a $250 repair is going to be about $2,000 because the other side is starting to fail. And so it requires taking the dash out. They said it's like a 10-hour job.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of wondering, once they're in there, is there any other things I should have replaced? The truck only has 120,000 miles on it, been very well maintained. I think about the heater core, and I believe the accumulators down there. I'm wondering if it'd be prudent to replace anything else while they're in there.
Right. I haven't seen a evaporator core fail in one of these. I've seen a couple heater cores, and we haven't actually done one, but I've heard, they say, hey, they're leaking a little bit. Do I put K-Seal in there to seal it up? What are you thinking? But if you're going to, K-Seal is a great idea if you're not taking it apart. But if you got to take it apart for these other things, replace every single blend door motor in it, not just the two. I believe this one has 4. Replace them all. I'd put a new heater core in it, make sure they clean everything up real nice, and inspect that evaporator core. If they don't replace it, inspect it very closely. But an evaporator core is some big bucks on one of those. I think they're about $500 to $600 for a factory one like that. But the heater cores are affordable. A heater core probably around $100. But yeah, every bolt-on motor and that heater core while you're doing the job, and that'll satisfy everything behind the dash. It's a lot of work. I mean, some people do them at home themselves, but you'd have to first have the air conditioning evacuated, and then you drain your coolant. Then you'd have to have it recharged. So by the time you get all that swearing and cut up fingers and everything from doing it, you might just pay somebody to do it.
Does that help you out there, Charlie?
Yeah. Could I add one other quick question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 2025 Nissan Subaru, and I heard you talking about, I was kind of on the run, so I couldn't take notes, but you talked about on that boxer engine, the valves tend to get carbon on the backside. What's the best way as a newer car owner for me to stay on top of that?
Put in the CRC guaranteed 2-pass emission system cleaner, run it for a couple tankfuls a few times a year, and that'll help really clean that out greatly.
And there's no advantage. I mean, I can't take the dash off and then bring it to you to save time. Or
don't ever do that. It'll cost you more money.
There's a method to that madness when the dash comes out and how you keep track of things and how you do things. I've witnessed a few of them, and no, don't do that.
Don't do that. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. 866-594-4150. And a quick note, if you are calling the show and you're on the show, you sometimes get information pretty fast. You can always go watch the YouTube feed or subscribe to the podcast and hear again what we said, because I know it's hard sometimes to keep track. Hour 2 is coming up.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. Normally, this is where I would ask you what you guys have seen in the automotive world, but I have a story this time, but we have calls coming in from all over the country. So I'm going to go there first, and we'll see if we come back to it, because I had a unique experience automotively this week, for me at least. Let's go to North Carolina and talk to Todd. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Todd, what can we do for you?
Hello, I just really enjoy y'all's show. I've got a 21 F-150 Power Boost, and I had a couple of questions about that. Just want to see if y'all had any experience with that hybrid powertrain. And then I've always had work vehicles until I got this truck, so they've always been serviced at like the quickie oil change places. Is that a bad idea for this truck? And then how often? I've always done 5,000 mile oil changes, so how often would you suggest I do that?
My neighbor has this same truck, and it's when he first got it, I went over and spent a few minutes checking it out, and I was quite impressed the way they hide the battery underneath there. It's more battery than I thought it was going to have, hiding between the frame rails. And so the power, right away when I first saw it, it was a new one at the time, but I saw the badge. I thought it was something different. I hadn't done any research, hadn't paid any attention. Thought it was something different, like a really hot EcoBoost.
Oh.
And then I realized that it was a hybrid powertrain, but had an EcoBoost in front of it. If I remember correctly, it runs an EcoBoost in front of it. So that engine that's in there is the same engine as if it didn't have the hybrid system in the grand scheme of things. There's some different controls and some stuff, but as a rule, it's the same engine. So Russ, the maintenance would come down to what you're seeing is what's good maintenance for a standard EcoBoost, just the same.
And what we see on those standard EcoBoosts, if you're not doing 3 months, 3,000 miles, you're probably going to be one of those people that buys timing chains for it. Because out of all the ones we've had come in that need timing chains in them, and there's been a lot of them, they've all had one thing in common: 5,000 to 7,000 miles or more on oil changes. So far, none of the vehicles that have come in for timing chains have been ones that are 3 months, 3,000 miles. So it's got to tell you something. When you see that happen, there's just facts we know. Not to say that there could be some failures with those earlier miles, but so far we have not seen any with that. Now, these are all vehicles with between 80,000 and 150,000 miles with these timing chain issues where they just wear out. So pretty much with any motor you buy, pick a thing that could happen to it. They all have a thing that if it's going to fail, it's probably this, whether it's a 5.4 with an issue, a 6.2 with an issue, a 5.3 Chevy with an issue, there's something. But on this vehicle itself, and being a hybrid type vehicle, if you're in town with it a lot, where it's really using that electric motor, that's a long time. That's a lot of miles on a vehicle, on an oil change. It's a lot of time for the oil just to sit in the pan while the engine doesn't run. So, in certain cases,
when you say that 150,000 miles, that's 50 oil changes. That's every 3 weeks if the car's 3 years old. You know what I mean? That's a lot.
Todd, how do you use the truck?
It's just my daily driver, and I travel for a living, so sometimes it sits a week without being driven, or I may run to the store or whatever. I work from home, so I don't put a ton of miles on it. It gets out on the highway, once every couple weeks or whatever, but it gets pretty light use.
That's pretty light use. I'd be doing the 3,000. If you said you traveled for a living with your truck, and you were putting lots of miles on every day, I'd say that 5,000 sounds like a pretty good time to do it. Maybe even 6,000, because you're out on the road, you're thoroughly warming it up. It's making a difference. The other,
but not here, not in Todd's case.
No. And then there's other things you can do too. You could run cleaners in the engine instead of changing it as often, you could put an oil system cleaner in there every time you change the oil that would help keep it very clean as well. I do have customers that choose to go to a higher mileage on their oil change, and they put an oil system cleaner in it before they change it. They're like, I did the oil system changer, like when we use the Justice Brothers oil system cleaner, we can put that in there at an oil change, and it costs less than doing the earlier oil change.
For a vehicle with an overhead cam setup and phaser setup, the quality of the oil and the packages that are in it are so important because it needs to remain its ability to cling to the chains as it's running through the oil bath and getting the oil pushed through the tensioners. But you want that oil, just like if you had a bike, you want that oil to be able to just retain to the chain. And if it gets worn and it loses some of the chemical package they put in there, it throws the oil from the chain, and that's where the chains don't get lubricated as well. And so it's important to keep the oil and the package that's in the oil. I call it the chemical package in the oils to keep that fresh because it's just the clingability of it.
If you were to use
Does that make sense, Russ? Did I say that?
Exactly. But if you were to use an oil system cleaner when you change the oil, in 15,000 miles, you could go from 5 oil changes to 3 oil changes by going 5,000 instead of 3,000 and using a cleaner.
Well,
That's $200 you're saving in oil change.
Mind. Yeah, and I certainly don't mind doing the 3,000-mile change. That's kind of why I called. And then, what about, like I said, just going to the quickie lube place, or do I need to?
They're fine.
Would it be better to go somewhere else?
No, they're fine. They'll do a good job typically.
Just make them tell you exactly what fluids in their hose, what they're using, what they're putting in. Make sure it matches what's supposed to be in there. I mean, they're usually really good, but because they don't want the liability either.
No, and they do a lot of them. So their specialty is to get the oil dropped and replaced and chassis lubricated where needed, and to know about oil. So
and as far as that power boost system goes, it adds power and torque in certain ranges. It makes that truck perform very, very well. I have not had reports of a lot of problems with that system in that truck from our parts side of things.
Mm-hmm. Todd, there you go. Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And that is on the quick oil change places. In my experience, as far as anecdotally, people telling stories, if it is a name brand place, for one, they have the experience and they're doing them. That's their thing. And sometimes you go in and it's a kid's first job in the field and you're wondering about that. I have seen that for sure the name brand places, they back up their mistakes very well. That they don't want to make mistakes, first of all, because that's their business, so they're good at it. But also, when they do something wrong, I've seen them to be very quick at fixing the problem.
Yeah, we've fixed a number of them for quick lube places, whether it's an engine or transmission or an oil pan, whatever it is. They usually get a hold of us, get the customer taken care of right away.
We have had phone calls,
and very few
historically, for parts over the years from things that have been done at name brand quick lube places, name brand dealerships, small repair shops. Mistakes happen,
and they are usually quick to.
They're either taking care of it or they're turning it into insurance.
Right. Yeah. So that's just to ease your mind. Bringing a $90,000 truck to the quick lube place. They're generally on it.
There's a much better feeling though when you're working with a mechanic that you've known for years, and they know that they got your baby in the stall, and that relationship's what's ideal. But that's just not regular for a lot of people.
Not if you're doing 50 of them in 3 years, like Russ says.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Chuck. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Chuck, what can we do for you?
Hey there.
Oh, Chuck's busy there. His car's talking to him or his phone's talking to him in the background. Chuck, I'm going to put you on hold. You talk to your car. We'll come back to you. Let's talk to Steve. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Steve, what can we do for you?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hey.
Yeah, I've got a 1999 Chevy Silverado 2500, and I had some work done on it a while back, and they tell me that one of the cylinders has low compression, and I'm wondering, is that a real problem that I really got to be concerned about?
Yeah, not everybody's been around the mechanic side as hard, and so typically when you hear low compression, it's a problem. But it depends on how it is in comparison to the other cylinders is probably as important. You're going to get a certain amount of deviation to an extent, and general mechanic practices have over the years said if they're all within 10% of each other, 15%, you'll hear some people say the vehicle still has an ability to run smoothly and work correctly. But when they start getting to be much different than that, percentage-wise from another one, it can cause the vehicle just not run right. The computer systems will be trying to adapt for it, and it just causes all kinds of wonky stuff to happen. This is a 99 Silverado, so most likely it is an older generation body with like a 350 Vortec or a 454. What motor does it have?
It's got the 6.0.
Oh, so this is an early Silverado 2500. Okay, you said Silverado. I should have caught that.
Yeah.
So it's an LS style 6-liter engine. Russ, what do you typically see?
Why do we know it has low compression?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Was it running bad, or did they just check it randomly and say,
That's a great
we got
question.
low compression? How do they know?
Yeah, it was running real rough. I mean, really rough, and so they replaced the oxygen sensor and the fuel pressure regulator, and that seemed to. And there was one bad spark plug too.
So did they do a compression test?
Yeah, they told me they did. Yeah.
Did they give you the readings of the compression test?
They don't. I don't have it in a printout, and I can't remember the numbers, quite frankly.
Does it run good now?
I don't know what the normal is. Yeah, it's running, fairly smooth. Yeah, for 213,000 miles on it.
That many miles, if it runs good, I wouldn't worry about it because there's nothing you can do short of tearing the engine apart and either replacing a valve.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you had one cylinder that was showing to be extremely low, then you'd do a leak down test on that cylinder to figure out where the compression's being lost at. Where's it going by?
If we're going to fix it or not. We got to decide, are we going to put an engine in it or are we going to repair this cylinder? So
is that pressure blowing by the piston because of a piston or a cylinder problem? Or is it pushing back up through the rings or through the valves because of a valve spring issue or something that's going on?
Did we have a bad coil or a bad spark plug that caused it, or a fuel pressure regulator that caused it to get too much fuel in that cylinder, lowering the compression and causing it to misfire? And now that it's fixed, is the compression going to come back up? Very likely. It can happen. So I'd say if it's running really good, I wouldn't worry about it. But the low compression can be caused by either wear, or it can be caused by too much fuel being dumped in there, or a bad cylinder plug misfiring, causing the cylinder to flood out.
So at this point, Steve is just wants his truck to run okay, and that's it, right?
Because
if it doesn't,
leave it.
Then
you're not fixing anything with the compression right now if it's running well.
Without doing something a little more significant.
Right.
Does that help you out, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a short trip truck, 30 miles, that sort of thing. And I just want to make sure it doesn't leave me on the side of the road.
I don't think you're going to have any problems. I mean, we can never say it's not going to leave you side of the road. It's a vehicle.
I've got a 5.3
probably will eventually.
Yeah.
in the shop right now that came in with a slight misfire. And number 1 and number 3 have lower compression than normal. And they both have leak down. And it's leaking from one cylinder to the other cylinder. So it's either got a blown head gasket or a cracked head. One of the two. So it's getting just one head pulled off it because it's got lower miles on it. And if the head looks good, it's getting a new gasket. It's going back together. But it's misfiring. It doesn't misfire going down the road, only at idle, in gear, stopped. It doesn't even do it in park. So that is a case where you take it apart. But if it was just low compression and it ran good, we'd leave it.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Chuck. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Chuck, what can we do for you?
Morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I've got an 06 Impala, 78,000 miles, low miles, whatever. Oil pan gasket is leaking. And for whatever reason, that's a $1,200 bill to get a new gasket put on, according to my local shop. Is there any product that you guys sell, or not you guys, but that's out there to help fix an oil pan gasket leak?
There is. Justice Brothers, our partner, makes an oil system stop leak. It's the only one I know of right now. And what it does is it helps condition seals. If you've got an old dried up seal, it's kind of like Armor All when we use to condition leather and stuff that's getting brittle and cracked. And it will just make that seal a little more pliable, take up some of that gap, and help it to not leak. Now, the reason for it leaking in the first, or being so expensive to fix that leak in the first place, you have to raise the car up, suspend the engine from the top so it doesn't fall out, the engine and transmission, and then you remove the wheels and tires, you take off all the parts connecting the struts and the engine mounts and the transmission mounts and the brake lines, and you drop the whole frame out of the front so you can get access to this pan. You can't get the pan out because they make things, part of the crossmember goes in the way. Some cars, it is removable, and it's more like a $400 or $500 job to do the whole thing, sometimes even less. Some of them are $200. You just pop some bolts out and you're good to go. Silicone. But your case, yeah, it's a bigger thing. But before an 06 Impala, before we go getting too jumpy on an oil pan, make sure your oil pressure sending unit on the rear of the engine there is not, or front of the engine, is not leaking. Because if that is leaking, it'll run down and look like an oil pan, because it'll run down and it'll go around the whole engine and just be leaking everywhere. And that's a quicker fix, a couple $100. And your valve cover gasket's leaking and running down both sides of the engine. We see that more often than an oil pan. And we tell customers who want to stop these leaks, let's start at the top. Are the valve covers leaking? Yes. Well, let's fix those. Oh, it still leaks. We said, look, see, we wrote down, we're going to start with the valve covers. Gravity comes down. Let's see what we get. We did the valve covers. Now see how this is dry. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now we see your oil pressure sending units leaking. Let's go with that. What else could it be? Well, oil pan. Oh, let's try the oil sender. Fix the oil sender. A couple weeks later, oh, it's dry. Great. We've won. But you got to start at the top and work your way down. But that oil pan, yeah, it's expensive. And for all these leaks, except for the oil pressure sending unit, which is a lost cause. If it leaks, it's a hole. There's no fixing that with stop leak. You can try oil system stop leak, such as the Justice Brothers oil, and it's a professionally available product. But ask your auto parts store if they don't carry it.
Does that help you out there, Chuck?
Yeah, it gives me this little direction. I appreciate it. Oil's cheap, man. We'll just keep adding oil. We'll see. But
thanks very much for the call.
Friends don't like it when you park at their house, though.
When I had the Volkswagen, the Bug, I used to get like 3 gaskets, oil gaskets for like $7 because they wouldn't even sell them one at a time because they were so cheap. That was the way to go. I thought those gaskets were worth what I paid.
But everything else leaked.
Yeah.
Your tube seals leaked so bad. I mean, it was all leaking.
Yeah, it just was it was the only gasket I've ever bought that I was like, yeah, that makes sense, as opposed to a head gasket that's just the same looking, but it was $1,200 or whatever. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bob quick. Bob, you're on the Under the Hood show. We could come back if you got a longer question, but let's try it.
Just a quick question. 22 GMC AT4 with the dreaded 6.2. What do I do? The dealer won't even look at it until I get a letter stating that it needs to be looked at. Any concerns about that just blowing up?
Well, if a letter's coming, it'll show up, and it should show up pretty shortly. They're quicker about the letters than the repairs.
Early June, they're supposed to start sending them out, it sounds like.
But you could do like Shannon. Before you get that letter, find yourself the proper oil. And right now, it seems like everybody ran in to get that oil, so the only place you seem to be able to get it is Amazon. I ordered some 2-3 weeks ago, and I got it yesterday. Oh, yeah, by the way, I got it.
Okay.
So we're going to put that oil in it. We're going to cut the oil filter apart.
We're not saying it's the proper oil, but it's the oil they're recommending.
No, I bought the right. Yeah,
it's what they're recommending to change to in case there is a problem.
Oil.
So
and it's a Band-Aid. if anything. It's not going to fix the problem of a
If you
crank
have the
that's not
problem.
right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but now would be the time to just upgrade to that oil. They can cut the filter apart and see if there's any metal in that oil. You could have an oil sample analyzed.
I bought an oil filter cutter. Chad Schittler said they use them on the race car all the time.
Those are
It's
pretty
like
cool.
a can opener. I bought one. It should be here pretty
We've
quick.
got one somewhere up there. I've had it for
Probably never used it for a long time.
We haven't used it.
You can
for
open
a
up
while.
an oil filter like a pineapple, you
Yep.
know, kind of and take the core out of it so you can inspect it. But there's going to be a lot of people scared, and you know, it just happened to hit a community that is trucks, sport utilities. People are pretty passionate, and a lot of money involved in the vehicles too, and a lot of money involved in the repairs. So people are really concerned, but they're running great until they just don't. There's no predictability to it.
I'm going to just give a quick shout out and some thought to those service managers at the dealers who just have a job at the dealership, man. They're just trying to fix your vehicle, and the phone is ringing and ringing and ringing. Bob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel, amongst other places. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at UnderTheHoodShow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Keith Crystal, congratulations from everybody here under the hood and our friends over at Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage, and Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Kansas and talk to Earl. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Earl, what can we do for you?
Morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I have got a 2023 GMC Sierra 2500 with the 6.6 gas motor. It's a company truck. I drive it for work, and I'm in it all day, every day, for 8 hours. I've got 76,000 miles. This year, ever since it started turning the AC on, it works fine if I'm going down the highway. If I'm stopped, parked, doing paperwork or whatever, the AC compressor the compressor's still running, but the AC stops blowing cold. I was thinking it was an airflow issue. We've cleaned the condenser, radiator, everything up there is clean. I thought it was an airflow problem, so I changed the fan clutch on this pickup. That did not fix it. I don't know where to go next. It's sensitive enough that even if I'm parked and there's a little bit of a headwind blowing to the front of the truck, it stays cool. If you face it away from the wind, it stops working.
That sure sounds like an airflow problem. That it's not flowing air. You can use a temp gun to check and see what the temps are there, and see what's going on with the airflow.
How's he do that, Russ?
Well, you just have to read it and see if your temps are increasing too much, and you can look at the scanner data and also see if the pressure is too high in there, where it's at, and what your evaporator core temp is, and things like that. It may be that it's just sensitive because it's low on refrigerant. If it's a little low on refrigerant, it's going to be sensitive to airflow. A system that's, let's say, you got 1234 YF in there, and that stuff is so sensitive. If it's low by, I think that holds 0.550 kilograms, and if it's low even, to 10%, it won't operate well at idle speeds without great airflow. So a little bit of wind would help it out. It's like getting a push up the hill on your bike when you just can't make it, and your friend gives you a push, when you're a little kid. Yeah, it's just close, but not quite there. You should have been following the presidential physical fitness thing. Remember that, guys?
Yes.
We used to climb the rope. Now they can't climb the rope. Anyways,
This truck still has the 134.
A 23 with 134. Which you got a 6.6 in there?
Yeah,
that's why.
It's the older.
That's the only reason why. Yeah, okay. Then you'd be more like 20% low.
I have put gauges on the high and low side. While it was running, watched the gauges. They were at the normal pressures. When it stopped working, both pressures went up.
Both pressures will go up
The
if the compressor shuts off. Both pressures are going to they're going to climb when the clutch shuts off, and that's got a variable orifice compressor. So if there's a problem in that compressor and it's not adjusting properly, it'll pump more freon depending on the temperatures and pressures. So that could be it too. They can be a little tricky to figure out, but there are diagnostic things that can be done to figure those out. It may need a compressor. It may not be operating properly there, but you definitely got to use a scanner on it to read what's going on first.
So just step by step, just quickly, what would you do with this coming in? He's described this.
We check the airflow. We put a scanner on it. We read and see what the data is, see if there's any codes in there, see what's going on. Then we check the pressures. We're probably even going to evacuate it and see how much came out of it and recharge it to make sure there's not air in there causing that thing to shut down because we've got a pressure issue going on. That can happen too. If it's got a very slight leak, and some of these had leaks in the liquid line and some of them in the evaporators on those from vibration and things. And if it's leaking there in the wintertime, when that pressure gets down negative because it's so cold below zero, it could be sucking air into it. You've got contamination going on now, and it would cause it to run poorly in the summer. Adding a can of quick air to it, is not going to fix this. It needs to be evacuated and recharged.
The company I work for has 3 of these trucks exactly the same. One's a 2020. The other 2 are 23s.
Doing the same thing?
All of our trucks have done the same thing.
Yeah, they do have a known issue with, not the evaporator, but the condenser on these vehicles leaking. I've seen a number of them that leak. Even Shannon's truck, his son had one it was a little older, but it had that same evaporator or condenser leak on them. They just, the way they design it, that one end, and they're worse than the diesel.
Earl, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. So the solution here is not to do his paperwork and let the car idle itself in gear and to get a little bit of airflow while he's doing his paperwork, like on a slight hill.
Yeah.
Put out a shop fan in front of it.
There you go. Or get someone just to fan it. Yeah.
That truck with that L8T motor is one of the few that still have a fan clutch. When he said it had a fan clutch, that's one of the few that have one yet. Most everything's electric fan setups, but that one still uses a clutch.
You got so much there, so much coolant, and you need something that a mechanical fan draws a lot of horsepower, but it pulls a lot of air. You cannot get an electric fan to flow as much air as a good working giant mechanical one driven by an engine that's hundreds of horsepower.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jerry. You're on the Under the Hood show. Jerry, what can we do for you?
Morning, guys. Got a 2016 Ford Explorer, and I don't know, last month or so, just driving through town like 30, 35, 40 mile an hour, get kind of a sort of a cutting out or kind of a hesitance. Like the car's kind of faltering or whatever. I wondered what would cause that.
Well, any type of misfire will cause that. It could be something from the fuel system. It could be an ignition system miss. I mean, it's a 16. You've got 10 years on it. How many miles are on it?
114.
Okay, 114. You're at the time for major tune-up time. Coils, spark plugs, coil boots. That's very common. Fuel system cleaning. It's things that if we were going to look at this in our shop, we'd bring it in, we'd check the general state and condition of the engine. We would look at the scan data and see what the fuel trims are at. Probably run the CRC guaranteed to pass fuel system cleaner through it to clean the engine, the emission system in it. Make sure everything's cleaned out good, so we got a good place to start there. Pull out some spark plugs, see what the condition of those are. I can guarantee at that many miles they're going to be worn out. There's a much lower replacement time to change those. Ignition coils, if you pull out the ignition coil and look at it really close, you will see chalky gray burn marks at corners usually and seam areas on these coils. The factory coils don't have a lot of windings in them. They build up a lot of heat as they run, like any transformer does. It's just a transformer. It runs, builds up heat, breaks down over time, and can cause an arc through the side, causes a misfire. We use the standard products coils when we're replacing these on a lot of vehicles because they usually have an extra winding in them. They're sealed differently, so they don't have the issue with the moisture intrusion, and they last a good long time, but the heat breaks down coils. Fords are known for it, but a lot of other models are known for it too. So I think you probably just have a general tune issue. Could be something else, but if you don't have a flashing check engine light, the check engine light's not on, it runs pretty good otherwise. With the miles and the age, it sounds like it's time for some basic tune stuff that your shop should be able to help you out with.
Okay, sounds good.
There you go, Jerry. Thanks very much for the call. Talking about a tune-up there. A 1968 Ford Ranch wagon.
Yeah.
What mileage was I doing major tune-ups to that on?
Every year, every 12 months.
Yeah.
You're putting spark plugs in it, points, condenser, plugs, points, condenser every year, and maybe even spark plug wires, but probably more 5 or 6 years on spark plug wires when they fall off or the mouse chews through them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, spark plugs, if you want to keep it running really good, spark plugs, points, condenser, distributor cap and rotor
and those were the 69-cent plugs that we saw the commercials for.
They were
right?
so cheap, and they were, when convenience stores started coming around, they were in a lot of convenience stores.
Yeah.
The R43 TS GM plug.
Pull them out.
They were
use a
everywhere.
screwdriver
Remember
to
walking
gap
down
'em?
the parts aisle, the automotive aisle, and just seeing rows of distributor caps?
Yep, and the points and condenser, the little plastic
Yeah.
bubble, up on the wall.
I didn't know what auto parts were until like 5 years ago when I was working on this show. I didn't ever have anything to do
You mean
with
20 years ago?
5 years ago?
Whatever.
That first 15 years,
See?
you're gonna.
Yeah,
what do we say about that?
15, wasn't it? Just anniversary.
We're going to take up, no, 20.
Yeah, no, his first
20?
15 years.
Yeah, first 15 I didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried
Yeah.
about that a lot. You're acting way better than I thought you could.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Alan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Alan, what can we do for you?
Hi, thank you. Good morning. Wondering, you got a Dodge Ram pickup. I'm wondering on the front end and the four-wheel drive, when that is in two-wheel drive, how does that work on the differential? What exactly is turning in there? I'm used to the older stuff with lockouts where everything's disconnected. But on that, as I understand it, it disconnects the transfer case and the one front axle, but the other one's still driving that differential. I'm just curious what's turning in there exactly.
Well, you're disconnecting the right side axle. That's the way most of these modern vehicles work. A lot of them, like the Fords, have hub disconnects, and they do have automatic lockouts. But on the Chrysler products and the GMs, they unlock one side of the axle. Basically, what they're doing is just keeping the two tires from being positive traction and giving you that jerk as you're turning and wearing out tires. So they just disconnect one axle. You've got the differential ring, the ring and pinion gear is spinning around in there. The front drive shaft's turning. Transfer case is disengaged, so you're still spinning the parts of the front axle when you're driving. You just don't have a live connection between the left side and the right side that would make things bind up. That's what's turning in there.
Okay, that's what I was curious is whether it was turning in the spider gears or spinning the whole.
They're
ring
spinning
pinion.
the spider gears, the ring and pinion. Everything's got some movement in there when it's disconnected. Mainly, though, the ring and pinion is moving off the left shaft, and the drive shaft's turning. That's why it's still important for oil changes on those, just not near as much as the rear. They don't have the load and the heat buildup on them. But yeah, that's how they disconnect it, with just a one-side axle disconnect. If it was a Ford, you'd have hubs that disconnect with vacuum air. They pull them loose, so it shuts down the whole thing and less wear.
that help you out there, Alan?
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, because it was my understanding the spider gears really shouldn't turn all that much. And
Not much.
If they were running, I was curious how they were getting by with that. But
Yep, they roll. They roll with the ring and pinion and the carrier just spinning around in there.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the End of the Hood Show. Let's go to Texas and talk to Thurman. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Thurman, what can we do for you?
Well, sir,
Oh, you're breaking up there. Hold on a second. If you're in a spot where you can stop moving, do that. We'll come back to you in just a second. Let's go to Rhonda and talk to Rhonda. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Rhonda, what can we do for you?
Well, good morning. I have a 88 Fiero, and you step on it and there's no guts. What's wrong?
It's an 88 Fiero.
I was just going to say, that might be.
Which engine's in it?
I have no idea.
Is it a V6 or a 4-cylinder?
My guess it's probably a 4.
Is there a way for you to ask other questions to get this? Like, is there a button on the thing, or is the glove box?
I have a lot of questions because I just sold a Fiero, and the 88 was the last year they made them. And for a lot of people, they're kind of a sought-after thing because they did some...
Does it have overdrive?
They did some suspension changes on them in 88 that make them a little more desirable. Have you had this car for a long time?
Probably 10 years.
Is it a GT?
Formula.
Okay, it's a Formula. Does it have overdrive on the shifter on there on the console? Does it say D or OD and then it doesn't? It's just 3, 2, 1?
No.
Or, okay, if it doesn't have overdrive, say if it had overdrive, I think that was the only year they had overdrive, and that would have been a V6. But without overdrive, and a Formula could have been a 4-cylinder.
I'm thinking it's a V6 yet, Russ.
But
I know, I'm with you. I'm thinking
yeah.
about this.
But if you've lost power on that car, it's an 88. It's an antique. It's way past antique already. So it could be that it just has something that has failed, normal stuff. One of the most popular things to fail on these engines is injectors. The injectors are horrible. They were horrible when they were 10 years old. But the injectors will go bad. They'll start off with a rough idle. They're just, you start it and they kind of growl and everything kind of vibrates. It'll do that for 5 to 10 years. And then all of a sudden it'll start misfiring a little bit. You give it gas and it just doesn't go. We had one we did for a customer 5 or 6 years ago. Came in, they had bought it used at an auction. Nice car. It sat up there for a while. You remember that?
I do remember it, yeah.
So we put all new injectors in it, plugs, wires, and a distributor cap and rotor, and that thing ran like a rocket. It was hard to find the injectors for that engine. It was a 2.8, and finding them, it was not really easy, but we finally were able to get some, and that was a while ago.
How many miles are on it, Rhonda?
Like 105.
Still pretty low for one of those engines. I mean, they're usually good at that time still.
Yeah, the motors themselves were pretty solid, and I think Russ is, the one that I had gotten just recently and then I resold it. The gentleman that had it, he had it in a museum and it sat for a number of years. And when they took it out, they had to put new injectors in it and clean the fuel system very aggressively.
Had the coldest air conditioning
It did.
ever. The windows would drip on the outside. It was so cold.
The buyer of that is still in contact with me. He's still my pen pal. And he recently had to put a heater core in it, and he did it himself because he was really bummed out that the heater core sprung a leak with that age. And so I showed him that it wasn't that hard to do, and he was able to do it himself. But
so for Rhonda, what's her first step?
Well, I think that you need to get it to a mechanic that's got some experience with that era of car
to see if it's falling.
Because it's not a
somebody that'll work on it, because a lot of shops won't anymore because of the age.
Yeah, it's not an onboard diagnostics 2 system where you can just plug in and find out a bunch of stuff easy. That didn't start till 1995. Right. And so, do you have any lights on or anything?
No.
And this is, you noticed, so it didn't do this at some point recently. It didn't do this, and now it does?
No, it's always kind of been that way.
Okay.
Because they're not that powerful.
When I got it, there was about 80,000 on it when I got it, so I haven't put much on it. Just a summertime driver, obviously.
If you were in our area of the world, I'd have you drive it by and to the shop or me, and we could just say, you know what, that's normal.
If it's a 4-cylinder, it's normal. It's
This is
kind of
how
like
they go.
But the 6-cylinders, they were small enough,
They're peppy.
and the way you sat close to the ground, they felt fast, even though they just weren't that fast.
Mhm.
They were kind of like a go-kart, and they were fun to drive. So I would be curious if this is the normal. What's the other cars you're comparing it to? That could be an interesting question.
Honda Odyssey van would be
No,
fast.
I am curious what you're comparing it to for saying that it doesn't feel very peppy. I'm kind of curious.
Oh, well, I have a work car that is a 24 Chevy Malibu.
That's way faster.
Yeah, the Malibu with a 2.4 in it, I think is 200 and some horsepower.
And extra gears.
Yeah, and it's got 8-speed automatic
Yeah.
probably.
Twice the gears, twice the horsepower.
Yeah, that's going to feel way peppier than
And
that
since
Fiero.
it's never,
That's a fun comparison.
Since it's always felt like this, it might just be how it is.
If it's a 4-cylinder, you got to give it about 25% throttle just to move, to get rolling when you take off from a stop. So that's pretty normal.
Rhonda, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's a fun car to have, right? I mean, because it's a basic. There's no. It's not like owning a Italian sports car. or
No,
anything.
but they do drive fun, but no power steering. It's still manual steering. They push a little bit if you try to go too fast into a corner.
Get one that's been converted to an LS.
Yeah, then they're real fun.
Or convert it to an LS. And there you go. Maybe that can be the next project.
That's what you need, Chris, a replacement car.
There we go. 866-594-4150. Let's try Thurman again in Texas. Thurman, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
You bet.
All right. So I was calling about a 2019 Dodge Ram 1500. I had heard a show a while back talking about wheel speed sensors. I'll be driving down the road after about 10 minutes of driving every time, and the analog brake system, it says service analog brake system, service electronic brake system, 4-wheel drive inactive, cruise control inactive. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. I'm pretty mechanical, but I don't want to just start doing stuff without knowing where to start. So,
Yeah, it sounds like you probably got a wheel speed sensor going out. We've had a few of these with front wheel speed sensors go out, and I've also seen the right rear sensor go out on these vehicles too. They've got they've just had some issues with the sensors. Most cars, they don't fail that quick, but some of these do, especially in hot, humid
got
areas.
136,000 miles on it. We travel for work a lot. So I'm actually in Corona, New Mexico right now, but I'm from East Texas. So
Are you from? Where are you from in East Texas?
I'm from Livingston. I know you're actually from there, Russ. I know I listen to the show every day. I listen to all the old podcasts too.
Right on.
Pretty close. I was just wondering. So I've got a friend there that has White Oak Muffler there on Highway 80 in White Oak by Longview, and that he could scan that and check it out and see what's going on. But I'll bet it's going to come up with some history codes for speed sensor. The heat and humidity, it seems like they have more issues down there with that than we do, and I'm seeing them. But up here with the cold and the wet will occasionally give us an erratic sensor like this. But with you, I think it's the heat.
And it's hot down there right now.
The heat is not good for the cars, is it? What's
Not
worse?
for anything electronic.
What's worse, 110 degrees or 10 below zero?
Heat. But with it cold, things can get like stiff and break if they've been broken down by the summer. Battery will be broken down by summer heat, but then the cold, when you go to crank it, you find out it's bad because of the stiffness.
I can't believe that our cars work here year round.
I can't believe I work here year round.
No kidding. We're at 100 degrees in the summer and 20 below in the winter. And
crazy.
I prefer the heat.
My cars all work just fine.
I can always go cool off by the
We've
lake.
enjoyed the last few days of an early summer.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, thanks very much for listening and watching on our YouTube channel and following us on all the social media channels that we have. We appreciate you on the Under the Hood Show. All right, This is the after show. We got if you've been watching on YouTube or you're I guess that's the only way right now you would be hearing us. We did a little switch up on the calendar.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're at. Facebook group.
The video there looks a little different today.
Yeah, it was Chris's fault.
It was my fault. I came in, pushed some buttons I shouldn't have pushed.
No, you didn't.
I was going to ask you guys what caught your attention in the automotive world.
We missed an opportunity for me to get a color right.
Oh, on the Fiero?
Gosh darn it. Rhonda, it's got to be yellow. I think that's the only color they made in a Formula.
Oh, interesting.
In 88.
Nah.
What about the white
red?
one?
They made red ones.
In an 88 Formula.
I know the yellow one. I picture it, but I thought they made a white one too. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I have no idea.
Can you Google that?
Sure. What am I looking up?
88 Pontiac Fiero colors. Or 88 Pontiac Fiero Formula. Just put that in and look up an image.
Okay, I did.
And look at an imge. What color is it?
Red, white, black, yellow.
Are they shown to be 88?
A lot of reds. Yeah.
Remember the bird?
But I don't know if those are. It's showing me.
Beretta. Remember the Beretta? The Indy pace car?
Beretta. Indy
green,
500.
lime green,
Yeah,
yellow. I remember lime green and yellow. I don't remember the other one. There's probably others too, but.
Seems like there was a blue.
Is Formula the one with the wing on the back?
Well, Formula would say Formula right on the door.
Where did they all go?
It would say Formula right on the door.
Here's all of the Meekum's got a bunch here. I'm looking at the pictures. A lot of
some
reds.
Some of these
yellow,
cars,
white.
you're wondering, do they all get crushed? Occasionally you'll see one, but sometimes I look at Barrett Jackson. It runs all day in our shop, and some cars I just don't see.
Yeah, where'd they go?
I saw a crappy Honda Prelude the other day in South Dakota, and I was like, "That's the first." I haven't seen I've only
we
seen
got a
one
lot of
Prelude
people moving
when
here.
I was in the South. I was driving to Florida. I saw a Prelude for the first time in 15 years, and then I saw one the other day.
People will drive anything. They'll
and it
pull
was
something.
junk. I mean, it was a kid driving it and looked like a kid driving a car.
Some of them will have faded paint, but if the body's good, they'll get the engine. You'll get a teenager in school that'll find something like that in the trees, basically, that's not rusted out, and they'll drive it. The worst rust you usually get down like in East Texas is going to be pine straw that gets around the glass on the window and rusts it out, or it gets down in the vent.
It holds moisture
and the fender, but you can fix that, But the other day something came off. My wife and I were sitting at a store, and she looked up and she says, "What is that?" And she looked out the window, and the second I saw it, I nailed it. I'm like, "Oh, that is a 1977 Pontiac Can-Am. I had one." And she's like, "Oh, I've never seen one." Like, you cannot miss it. This one did not look like mine, and mine was
they made a really bad GTO version out of that body style.
Mine was less than 10 years old, and it looked way worse than that thing that's now 40, 50 years old, whatever. It's nice. You just don't see those. And then I saw an 84 Dodge Daytona Turbo running around our town the other day, and it was blue, and it was beautiful. It looked like brand new. I thought.
They have the little hump in the hood. Is that one with the?
It's got a hood bubble on it. And it says turbo right on the side of the. It's got the little thing, and it says turbo on the hood, and it says it on the door handles too. It says turbo. And then they had there's a guy driving one around Sioux Falls with historic plates, an Omni.
GLH.
It's a GLHS.
Okay, so
it's
the
a
Shelby
black
edition.
One. Yeah. So the GLH actually stood for Goes Like Hell, and the GLHS was Goes Like Hell Some More. That's what that stood for. But this is the GLHS, and it's not. This one didn't have the Shelby badge on the bottom. There is a GLH Shelby running around here that occasionally you'll see, like he goes out to the Hardee's and stuff. You'll see him running around, but that car became the Daytona Turbo. What did they put that? What was it that they scaled that down a little bit? Was it the No. It was the Shelby Turbo car that became the 4-door Omni. There you go. But the older cars, it's great seeing one around. It's like an old trip. Instead of pulling out the picture from high school, you see it go by and you say, "Oh, I remember those days." Even if it's something crappy that we didn't like in school, to see it running around today in in that nice a shape is cool.
I get excited when I see a Pinto.
Yeah, if it's running and nice, or a Vega or something that hasn't been V8 powered already,
A Pacer.
an AMC Pacer. That was a joke for us when we were in school. If you had a Pacer or you had a Nash Metropolitan, they were like, "Oh, you got a Nash." If you had a Nash Metro now, you'd be cool. No matter who you are, you could be a big biker dude driving a Nash Metro and be like, "That's cool." But back in the 80s, it was not cool.
The one that stands out for me is I saw a Maverick recently, and my brother had a Maverick, and what I thought of the Maverick when I was 8 is way different than I thought of the Maverick when I saw it last summer.
Was his a V8?
Yes.
Was it a grabber?
It was yeah, and he wrecked it, and it was.
My girlfriend had
It
the
was a
Maverick Grabber
monster.
GT, and the night I met her, I did not expect that car to have the power it did. I was like, "Oh, look, a Maverick, ha ha!" So I pulled up to the stoplight and gave it a little, gave it a little gas in the Mustang, and she just went, "Whatever," and took off. I had to chase her. I was like, "Whoa, that car is fast!" Yeah, there's cool stuff. You know what I haven't seen? I owned years ago was an old Fiat X19, the old Bertone. I have not seen another one of those in person since I left Texas. I don't. When was the last time you saw one in the yard, or
It's been a while.
that a customer or a car show? You just don't, because I think they disintegrate. I mean, they literally, if you put it in your garage and you open the door 3 years later, it's just gone.
It's gone. It's just dust.
It's like, oh, let me sweep it out, because they had some problems. they were, you knew it had oil because it was still leaking. You know, if it stopped leaking, you put some more oil in it. But it was fun to drive, but I don't know if I can get in one anymore. That was tinier than my Triumphs. That was a small car. I'd get in it because the roof was out all the time, because I didn't have a roof. I paid $200 for it. It didn't have a roof. It had a head gasket out. They all had head gasket out, right? So I had a steady pile of barge leak, which did no good at all. And you drive it for about 15 minutes, then you'd have to stop if you were cruising, because it would overheat and boil, and the fan was wired with a light switch, hanging.
Made it work
with electrical tape.
You made it drivable.
You'd flip the switch on, you'd start the car up, and you'd drive it. So I think that's the way a lot of them were. But
So Chris, go back to where you were trying to go.
Yeah.
How'd your automotive news go for the week?
What caught my eye was the airbags that deployed in my car. It was my first.
Were they
kaboom?
Were they purposely deployed?
They were no. They were not. I was passing a truck. There was I'm trying to find this guy, see what he saw. There was a guy in a pickup truck, big pickup truck, pulling a trailer with 2 small campers on the trailer, like
Okay, a transporter.
Yeah.
Out of Indiana, going somewhere probably.
And I was passing him on the interstate, and 2 deer jumped out of the ditch in front of me. I mean, I had barely enough time to recognize that there were deer in front of me. It happened so fast.
You don't know whether it was a doe, a deer, a female deer, or
I think it was, because it was the song going through my head.
Okay.
When you hit a deer, it's like they're in slow motion, that you see the legs. And
That was the thing. I caught him in the air. They did not take any steps. It happened so fast.
so you're passing, and all of a sudden, oh,
Yeah,
Well, you scared the crap out of them, because it was all over the front of your car.
I sure did. My wife said, "There's crap all over the car." I said, "I was scary. I was scared. Give me a break."
it wasn't the deer.
So that's the first time I've ever. I don't even know if I've seen an airbag go off in person. I've watched videos, but I don't think I've ever been there when one goes off.
Well, now you've seen 3 go off at once.
Yeah. And it was, I was amazed at recognizing that the airbags went off. And also at the same moment I recognized that the airbags went off, they were already deflated. They'd already caught me and deflated in the split second I had to realize what had happened.
Ears ringing?
No, because I had stuff. It was pretty loud in there already.
Oh.
I did have to. I was like, "What?" Oh, I had to turn off the radio because that
Did your
stayed
knees
on.
hurt when the knee bag went off?
No, that
Missed them?
And the only thing that really, like, I do have bruising on my shoulder because the tensioners
Pulled on
Gave you a pull?
really hard. Yeah. And I have a couple burns on my leg, either from the airbag or from the plastic cover on the knee bolsters. And it was, again, I've had to hit the brakes on that Prius a couple times hard, and I was shocked at how fast and it stopped, and I didn't move a bit. I mean, I locked
did you
them
get
up.
any braking in before you hit the deer?
Just I think all at one
Reactionary
one moment,
deer
yeah.
brake
All
impact.
happened, yeah. There was no, yeah. I think I hit the brakes at the same time as it all happened because it happened super fast.
Any problem staying in your lane? Or were you?
No, that was the thing. Because
are you still beside the vehicle you're passing, or are you just?
Well, I think as soon as I hit the brakes, he was gone because we were going fast. I mean, it was full
interstate speed.
Yeah. So that was the thing. By the time the airbags went off, I was stopping. I mean, I was slowly moving, but I was in the lane because I quick looked in the mirror to see if anything was coming. Nothing was coming. It was 4 a.m. And when I looked back out the windshield, I was still in the left lane. So that's how steady it kept me. And I let off the brake a little bit to get over to the side, and I stopped early, not thinking. And then but then I was like, all right, I'm okay. You're gonna get off the call. I'm kind of on the lane still, so I put it in neutral. I tried to start it, wouldn't start, of course, and I'm pushing it off into the ditch, into the center, and it starts to get away from me. It was a little bit of slope, so I had to jump ahead and get in before it hit the little posts. And then I realized, no, I could have just let it hit the post. But I did get lucky in that it was the section of the interstate where I stopped was where there was a crossover. So there wasn't the cables down the middle. It was the posts, and there was a gap for a U-turn for emergency vehicles. So I was on the flat part, and all I had to do was I could get way off to the middle.
The officer says, well, what happened, Chris? Well, it was a deer. Oh, so you hit a deer. Well, not exactly. What do you mean? Well, you see, the deer jumped out. I hit the brakes. I skidded. I pulled over. So I got out, and then the car wouldn't start. So I tried to push it off the road. And, well, it got away from me. So it rolled down the hill, hit the pole, and, well, so you hit a deer. Okay.
Whoops.
Where was the deer?
That's the thing. I don't know.
Did it continue on?
It must have, because I went back. We drove around once to see if we could see anything, and then I drove back when it was light out, and there was no indication anywhere that anything had happened. There was a piece of plastic on the road that probably came off my car about where I had stopped. Other than that, I could not pinpoint any skid marks, anything. And that was the thing. I was trying to figure out how fast I stopped. I know where my car stopped. I don't really know how much before that was the accident. But there was no evidence, unless the deer were down in the ditch just where I couldn't see him. Because we didn't stop and get out and walk around. I just drove past slow a couple times. Once when it was kind of dark, and once when it was light.
You didn't leave an immediate carcass on the side of the road type of thing or
Those
anything?
things are pretty tough. They can go a long way when they're hit.
But, I mean, I didn't give it a glancing blow. The car, it was...
It's hard.
It was a hard hit. I mean, and it
tell you what, me or you get hit by a car going that fast, we're going down.
Oh, yeah. And it was, the car's totaled. It was, yeah.
It shoved his core support. The passenger side took more than the left. The left is gone. The left headlight is still 80% intact, but as it goes towards the right, the core support on the passenger side was 14 inches back from the front of the vehicle. So it's...
Well, you're going 85 miles an hour, right?
That far. So
almost
it was
75, yeah.
If he was half a second slower, it would have missed him. It would have gone past him because it got out in front of him and he clipped it before it got all. I'd say 75% of the right side of the car is hit, so it missed the first quarter and then just pulled it back.
Oh, it's hard.
And it was the other thing that surprised me was the powder and the smell was so. I was not expecting it to smell like I was in an enclosed area shooting a gun multiple rounds. It was the propellant, the explosion was very stinky and powdery, which that was something I
Sodium azide.
wasn't ready for. But yeah, it was that's only the second accident I've been in, and the first one I went through the windshield. This one was better. This one was way better. It probably had more of an impact at first, but that last one, when the windshield was soft, it just had more lasting imprints. I was surprised when I told I went to the doctor, and she's like, "Oh, we're getting an EKG," because she could see the bruising and stuff, and she's like, "Just that you're of an age where we need to." I was like, "Oh, am I?"
You're of an age.
You're of an age where we're gonna do an EKG because.
So is that just a random age they pull out, or a past state?
I think it's it's plus 50 or whatever, or maybe my stature. But she said, yeah, if you were a kid, I wouldn't do it because it's fine. But I can see that you took a blow to the chest.
So I got a lot of cushion.
And I didn't think when I called work, he was like, did the airbag hit your face at all? I'm like, no, not at all. And my wife said,
well, then you're
yeah.
perfect radio.
She said, yeah, it did. Because she said it looked like someone smacked you in the face with their hand. And I didn't notice that at all.
You were by yourself, though.
Yeah.
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 So when you said the speed, you were cautious about that. This must have happened in Minnesota.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I was just getting on the air. I was like two miles past where I got on the interstate. So I would assume, I wasn't.
Boy, just think of all the miles you've put down that interstate. And,
I've been making a drive of longer than 30 miles to work, 60 miles a day at least, for more than 30 years. And this was the first accident I've had.
We've got several people that work for us that are up in that, I don't know what part of Minnesota you call it, but western Minnesota, that, yeah, they hit deer. Was it every year he hits one?
Doug has got double digits.
Yeah. I've had
so
probably 20 close calls where I thought I was going to hit one. But this was the first one that got through.
Yeah, they're out. I have to look for them. If it's dark, I have to look for them every day going to work, and I see at least 1 to 2 a week during the dark months, and they're usually in the same spot, kind of like where the officers sit on the road. It's like, there's going to be one there, so slow down.
So
occasionally they're not. Occasionally they'll surprise you at the weirdest places. A couple of them like to run down the bridge, so they're running down the road down here on the south end, But yeah, they're out there, and I tell my wife when she's driving up there in northern Minnesota,
oh yeah,
you watch. She's like, well, we're going to take off early in the morning, like 4:00 to get to drive to her sister's. I'm like, no, you don't.
Drive that Highway 23 corridor there. Yeah. That's where they're just crazy.
They have a place so bad up there that by the state park, for a mile, there are warning lights down the road, like every 50 feet, that light up when there's a deer or a person walking up the side of the road.
Put up fencing to help with the snow and from deer being able to jot right out.
And when I was past, I did remember after I hit the deer, all in 1 second, I realized that as I was passing the truck, I pulled up alongside it, and it had a lot of lights. It had a lot of lights pointed back on the trailers, so it was bright, and I wonder if that kind of dimmed my vision at all, although those lights don't bother me, but I wondered if it just, as I was going, it was the deer, the airbags, and
dear.
I had the thought, he hit his brakes. He tapped his brakes while I was alongside him about the same time as it happened. So I wonder if he saw the deer before I did. Just a very split second, but it was like,
this is what we just talked about several times about headlights and the new ratings that are set that you have to be able to identify an object and stop at a certain distance, and that's their judge. It's like let's just say it's 350 feet. You need to be able to see that object and stop from 60 miles an hour. And there are cars that you cannot, at the speed you were going, you can't see the deer 100 feet in front of you
You're
because the
over-
lights.
You're overrunning the headlights.
Yeah,
too,
the
with your speed.
lights are just not good, and then they have to be able to do that, but not blind the other drivers. So you have to have a sharp beam, super sharp cutoff that is high enough where it won't blind the oncoming cars, but will thoroughly illuminate the ground and the ditches so you can see what's up, and then have brakes good enough to stop. It's been a thing people have been hitting deer forever.
Well, I'm glad you're okay and
Yeah.
nothing more for you. The car's
Car's toast.
sadly done, and now you are shopping.
In search
And now
of another car.
I am not prepared for this. This idea of
sudden.
This car is gone. The world is your oyster. I've not been prepared for this at all.
You've been looking for another car for
2 years.
Yeah. 2
And
years.
none of the scenarios were this.
Yeah.
So it's
It's different when you want one than when you have to get one. It's like when your house burns down. It's like, I'd like another house. No, I'd like another house. No, it burned down.
And
I don't wanna get another
the
house.
other thing is, I was prepared for this car to stop running mechanically because I had a lot of miles on it, but it's been great. But there's always a time when you're like, oh, it's getting close. But the other thing that's throwing us is we've been planning this whole time. At no point did insurance come into any of the play. So what I've been looking at before, the equation's now different because there will be some return on this car that I wasn't expecting. So I'm just not
We're
prepared.
we're gonna try our best to be here for you and survive this ourselves.
It was fun. It was real fun. The other thing that surprised me was when you watch the videos of the airbags, you always expect it to be some big thing, but it's not. And it wasn't when I was in it either. The deer and the airbag were all at the same time. So I was like, and that's it. The noise was gone. There was no big boom. It was just one, and that's it. And then it was already gone. I never, in the time it took for the airbag to go off and dissipate, was as fast as I could recognize that something had happened.
I'd like to have a slow motion of that so you can really appreciate what happened in that short period of time.
Yeah. I've watched a couple since because it's amazing. And it was, I feel like I've learned something, not about deer or anything, but just, I feel like, what airbags go off?
If that deer survived, do you think it's having a little wrap up with its buddies?
They're on the after show right now.
Talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I survived.
I'm so glad it was a Prius.
Yeah.
There was a truck right there.
The truck would have taken me out, but the Prius was soft, and I just kind of I bellied onto it, and then kicked off.
I did a Dukes of Hazard.
I was in a jump, and so my legs are still intact. So I ran, and then I had to cut between two other cars on the other side of the interstate.
It was a tough deer initiation. They were over there grazing on some grass, and they said,
Get between the truck
come on,
and the
buddy.
car.
What do you think you're going to do today? He's like, well, I feel strong. I'm going
wait.
to take out that Ram truck. Yeah, I don't know. I'll try the Prius. Look what I did.
Yeah, it was quite the morning.
You done pooped yourself again.
So
Tough
there you
guy.
go. That's what I did this week.
Well, we're glad we're okay. You're okay, and the rest of it will all get figured out.
Car's already gone. Looks like Doug Mashik, Prairie House Productions. Looks like you get some free car mats.
Yeah, I got some stuff for you.
I got them up at the shop there.
Yeah.
Do you have the roll top thing that covers your luggage? We thought yours was missing. Oh, you do? Well, I got one that everybody
one.
always wants. You
There's
can
one
put it
for
on
sale.
eBay, Shannon. But we got those floor mats up there for you. You win a prize.
There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.